Hey Cal fans, and welcome to my second recruiting breakdown here at WriteForCalifornia.com. Today we're looking at quarterback commit Kai Millner, a 3-star recruit out of Higley High School with a solid assortment of mid-level offers. If you want more recruiting content as well as breakdowns of all the new coordinators joining the Pac-12, then you can get all of that and more at patreon.com/Burke18. As for Millner, I could only find one game of film on Higley from this season, and so this breakdown will be based on a comprehensive assessment of that game, which was against Castillo High School out of Queen Creek, Arizona. To give you some context, in 2019 both Higley and Castillo had winning records at the 5A level of the Arizona Interscholastic Association, which is the second highest level of high school football in the state. After a season-opening loss to Southern California's Alemany, Millner and company went 8-3 at the 5A level in Arizona, and their offense scored more than 30 points in 9 of their games. Their season ended in the second round of the playoffs with a 26-22 loss to Campo Verde, the eventual 5A state runner-up. As for Millner himself, in 2019 he completed 64% of his passes, throwing for 13.9 yards per attempt, 31 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. To cap it all off, he also ran for 356 yards and was definitely a dual threat at the high school level. Okay, so with those basics out of the way, we're ready to look at the Castillo game. When these two teams faced off, there wasn't a ton of recruited talent on the field. Millner's offense included a 3-star UNLV committed tight end, an unrated guard who's walking on at Arizona, and a 2-star multi-purpose athlete who's in the recruiting databases but hasn't signed anywhere. Castillo's defense had a few players who were also in the recruiting databases, but none of them have gotten any traction in terms of rating or offers at this point, so this is clearly a few steps below what we saw in the Maven Anderson breakdown last time. With this level of competition, you really want Millner to stand out as the best player on the field, and so that'll be our benchmark throughout this video. So, what kind of offense was he running? In this game, the Knights were predominantly an 11 personnel team playing with one true running back, and then using 3 wide receivers and an H-back style tight end who they used as both a blocker and a pass catcher in a reasonably sophisticated RPO-based offense. Formationally, they were able to get a good amount of versatility out of this personnel grouping, either by splitting out 3 wide receivers, as we can see right here, or by bringing one of those receivers into the backfield to play as a second running back. From split back alignments like this, they would use either of these players to take a handoff or to go in motion as a passing threat on some kind of RPO, and they did a good job of mixing up who was doing each of those things. When we hear words like RPO and dual threat, we often think about a quarterback who's maybe a little bit more of an athlete than a passer, but that's not really what I saw from Millner. While he is certainly effective as a dual threat quarterback at his high school level, I didn't see anything exceptional in this game to suggest that he could rely on his feet in the Pac-12, and I actually see him being a lot like Garbers in that he can be asked to run the zone read when it's there, and he can cause a lot of problems for the defense in this way, but he's also not that next level run threat that can take over a game. For Millner to succeed at Cal, I think that it'll have to be as a passer, and for this reason I kept a very close eye on the kind of spread offense that he ran and the demonstrated skills that'll be transferable to a pro-style offense. To get a sense for this, let's start with this play right here. The offense is in a split back set, and their H-back is set to the left. As RPOs go, this is on the more sophisticated end of the spectrum, and Millner's going to have 3 options here. First, he can hand off to the running back on his own play to the left. Second, he can pull the ball and throw a pop pass to the tight end to the left, where he's releasing into a route instead of run blocking. Finally, he can throw a flare to the running back who's gone in motion to the right. Interestingly, I don't believe that there's any quarterback run option on this particular play, and I say that because if we look right here at the backside defensive end, we see that Higley's right tackle is straight up blocking him, and so while we are looking at a play with both run and pass options, there doesn't seem to be a zone read component here. Instead, it looks to me like Millner's reading this backside linebacker and deciding whether to hand off or to throw the flare. If that linebacker peels to defend the running back who's gone in motion, then he won't be able to pursue the run, and so Millner will hand the ball off. On this play, though, that guy's actually going to chase the run down inside, and so Millner pulls the ball and throws the flare for a nice gain down the sidelines. What I really like about this play is that it seems to ask Millner to make a pre-snap coverage read in order to decide which side of the field he's going to work. On this play, Castillo's running a strong side safety rotation, so here we can see that both safeties are lined up to the left side of the field. That's going to put one of them directly over the tight end and only 9 yards off the line of scrimmage, and so my guess is that Millner sees this and decides to ignore this particular option, instead working the backside read on this linebacker as we just discussed. With no safety over the top to that side of the field, Millner knows that nobody else will be able to come down to pick up the running back in coverage, and so that linebacker truly is isolated, making him a good player to read. On another play, we see how this play can develop differently depending on Millner's pre-snap read. Here the offense is in the same formation, but Castillo's playing with split safeties, putting one to each side of the field. On this play, the offense is motioning this running back out to the left, and Millner knows that that route's going to pull away the safety that's lined up to this side of the field. That means that there won't be any safety over the top of his tight end, and so on this play, Millner's actually going to activate that tight end pop pass for the touchdown. Although this is an RPO-driven spread offense, therefore, there is some important stuff going on with coverage identification and with choosing which side to work, and that's going to be very relevant to moving into a pro-style passing game. Higley's offense started from laterally oriented RPOs like we've just seen, but as the game moved on, they started to get into more of a vertically oriented passing game, and in my opinion, this is where Millner was at his best. To see why, let's look at his first touchdown of the game. On this play, Higley's starting at the 20-yard line. Castillo's running a strong safety rotation again, and so they've got one safety rolled down over the slot receiver here with the other playing over the top, and that's going to isolate this outside receiver on his cornerback, and that's the matchup that Millner's going to attack. As we run the play forward, we see that the wide receiver doesn't get a ton of separation, but he has at least preserved a good amount of space between himself and the sidelines, and Millner does a nice job of fading it over his outside shoulder, where he's able to go up and make probably the best catch of the game. This is a nice downfield throw without a lot of room for error, and it gets Millner and his team a touchdown. On this play, we see another vertical throw, this time starting from the 30. On this play, Castillo's got a single high safety playing in the middle of the field off screen, and Higley's attacking him with two vertical routes by these inside receivers who are running a switch. As we run the play forward, we see that this wide receiver breaking inside is going to grab that safety in the middle of the field, and that's going to open up the seam for this wide receiver who's breaking back out. Millner's going to get this off pretty quickly once that receiver clears the under coverage, and I want to point out how compact he is in the pocket here. His offensive line's getting walked back into him a little bit, but he's able to get his hips around and get the ball downfield without a lot of room in front of him or without panicking, and this ball's not going to be caught, but it probably should have been. There's a similar idea on this play. Here, they're running this slot wide receiver on a post, and that's going to hold the single high safety in the middle of the field, isolating the outside wide receiver on his cornerback. This ball is going to travel about 50 yards in the air. Now, Millner doesn't show a cannon here, and the ball's going to be a little bit underthrown, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter because his wide receiver is going to be able to slow it down a little bit and bring it in for the touchdown. Earlier in the video, I talked about Millner's ability to recognize different coverages in his pre-snap reads in the RPO game, and I like this play right here because it shows us something similar in the downfield passing game. On the last two plays, we've seen Castillo playing with a single high safety, but on this play they've got split safeties, so there's a guy off screen in the seam lined up over this slot receiver here. Higley's going to attack this technique with a common cover 2 beater called smash, where this outside receiver is going to run a hitch to hold the cornerback shallow, while the slot receiver breaks outside into all this space toward the sideline. This is a pretty long throw from the right hash, but Millner gets it there on time and with accuracy, and this definitely could have been caught by the receiver. These throws might be testing Millner's range a little bit, and the ball doesn't explode out of his hand like it does for some quarterbacks, but I would say that his most impressive asset is his ability to make a variety of throws against different coverages in the downfield passing game. After watching this game, my main area of concerns with Millner's timing and accuracy in the underneath and intermediate passing game, and this is magnified when he's on the move or under pressure. On this play, for example, Higley has a good look with the wide receiver at the top of the screen running a 5-yard out against a cornerback who's playing off and inside. Unfortunately for Higley, the ball's thrown low and away here, and the wide receiver isn't going to be able to bring it in. A better receiver probably would have caught this anyway, but regardless, the cornerback's not anywhere near the ball here, and so this catch didn't need to be as challenging as it was. Here's another play where the ball gets away from Millner a little bit. On this play, he's going to get flushed out of the pocket to the right, but he's not going to be under any real pressure when he throws it. He's got his tight end working outside, and he's pretty open here, but the ball's going to be thrown high and out of bounds for the incompletion. So, to sum all of this up, in Kai Millner, the Bears are getting a guy who's run a reasonably sophisticated spread offense. There's some complexity in his high school scheme, and Millner shows the ability to make solid pre-snap reads against a variety of coverages. He's adept at running a horizontally oriented RPO attack and has been able to counter those horizontal stretches with a very vertical downfield passing game. While he can stand in a pretty compressed pocket and sling the ball downfield, he does show a little less accuracy both in the underneath passing game and more generally when he's pressured or on the move. As far as being the best player on the field, I think that he clearly was in this game. He's not lights out, and I don't know how unique his skill set is, so I agree with his 3-star rating, but he's definitely a Pac-12 talent with potential to develop into a good player after a few years in the program. Alright, that's it for this video. If you like this kind of analysis, then you can check out patreon.com/Burke18, where I've been covering new Pac-12 coordinators like Bill Musgrave, Joe Moorhead, and Marvin Lewis, as well as some recruiting stuff. Otherwise, I'll see you here in a few weeks with another Cal recruiting breakdown, and until then, go Bears!